Okay, I am going to test it now. And if it tests, it tests. Go to my channel, your channel. My live stuff. My live stuff. And if it's on, it should hear me.
My live stuff.
Yes, I can hear myself. Okay, here we go. Well, first let me make sure I look good. It's too late for that actually now. StreamYard. Where are you, StreamYard? You are StreamYard. Okay. The VGRT Gaming Podcast, episode 749, recorded on April 1st, 2025.
Hello, and welcome to the 749th edition of TD Gaming Podcast and 582nd episode of Video Game Roundtable. I am TJ Denzer.
And I am Jonah Falcon.
The VGRT Gaming Podcast focuses on game news from around the industry.
And no gaming flashback. Yeah, I know it's April Fool's. We're not doing any April Fool's stuff. Yeah. I'm not even changing the voice on my mic. Let everybody else do internet April Fool's stuff. I will say, though, there's a lot of stuff that's happening this week, though, because a friend of mine, Derek, is in town, and my friend Derek works for Nintendo. Unfortunately, he can't get me an invite to any of Nintendo's things, and they're doing a bunch of things this week. We'll be speculating on that, but it's a shame. He can't invite me in. It would have been nice, but, you know, a lot of Switch 2 stuff coming up. So, moving right on, what have you been playing there, TJ?
Mostly I've been playing Deadlock. I've spent
for free invites. Ask TJ for an invite.
I haven't I've mostly been working on stuff this last week. I haven't really been working on anything for review this particular last week, but
yeah,
I'm about to jump back into Pacific Drive because they're about to put up a big new update for that game that's going to add new expeditions, new equipment, a new storyline and content. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
Cool. I have been playing the demo for Into the Restless Ruins. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
Okay. This kind of game it's you know a game in which you're given a description and you say, yep, that's specifically for me, right? It's like, yeah, it's like just tosses an arrow and goes right here. It's like, oh, okay, I know I'm going to like it. So Into the Restless Ruins is a dungeon building roguelike. And what you do is you plop down rooms on a dungeon, and you keep on plopping the rooms down, and each of them may have powers, or they may just be corridors, and you have to open up certain rooms to unlock things like seals to allow you to fight against whomever. And all these rooms, you know, so you really have to pay attention to what you're doing, because if you lock yourself out, you know, if you place the rooms wrong, guess what? You can't move forward. You'll have to start over all over again. And after you place the rooms, you go in them as a character, and it's an auto battler, so you don't battle. You just move around, and he fights for you, sort of like Vampire Survivors. And each of the specialty rooms gets you stuff. And it's a card-based deck builder, so you have this kind of room, this kind of room, this kind of room, these cards, and you have you can place them down, providing you have the energy to do it. And here's the big thing. As you're doing this and monsters attack, your health goes down, but your torch starts to go down too. And if your torch goes out, you can't see anything because the light that you have gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you can't see anything. And now you're being hurt just by being in the dark, right? And you can die, just lost. And here's the kicker. There is no mini-map. When you place down rooms, you better remember where you put them. Before you go in, you have to study that map. Let me see. I'm going to go here, here, here. It's not such a problem when you have a small dungeon, but then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you have to start strategically placing campfire spots, which replenish a little bit of your torch. It has an 8-bit look to it, or maybe like maybe an original Apple Macintosh look to it, or something like. It has very elemental graphics, but I'm telling you right now, even the demo has gotten me hooked. So I'm looking forward to the full release, which is going to be on May 5th. It's one of those games which I don't think a lot of people are going to know about or play, but it is really addictive for those of you like roguelikes and those of you like Dungeon Master or Dungeon Keepers, games like that. This is a really neat game. You have to look it up to see it. It has a monochromatic look to it.
Interesting.
Yeah. The demo's out, so if you want to try it out, try it out. I really enjoyed it. So, before we get into anything, something adorable happened on X between Inzoi and The Sims. So Inzoi just recently went into early access, and for those who don't know, it's a life sim, much like The Sims. And so far, it's been getting it's mostly positive for like 14,000 reviewers on Steam. So when they announced they were launching, The Sims sent what's it called? Posted a sim holding a fruitcake, which fruitcakes are the gifts that they give new neighbors, and it's sort of like Sulsu is what's it called. And Inzoi responded with their character having received the fruitcake. So it's sort of like this back and forth, and all other games have been jumping into that thread.
That sounds wholesome. I like that.
Yeah. And it prevents a hostile fandom too. So, I don't know if I'm going to get into it. 14,000, mostly positive. The graphics look great. It looks like a regular game. It's sort of like the character creator. I saw some of the characters. You can have people with different heights. You can have people who are overweight. You can have people who have beards. And they look like real characters. I haven't tried it yet. And maybe later on, I might get into it. It's a $40 purchase at early access. So I'm holding off for now. Anyways, moving into quick news, more Elon Musk stupidity. Elon Musk's estranged daughter weighs in on his pro-gamer claims. Elon claimed he was awesome at Overwatch, and his daughter says he was a Bronze Torbjörn main. He was fucking dog shit. I was a 12-year-old Hanzo main who was barely in silver. His was a Bronze Torbjörn main. Awful, like god awful. And for those who don't know, bronze means that you're in the lower 5 to 10% of the player base.
Also, Torbjörn is like a notorious like fire and forget character. He has a turret that he sets up, and he can repair it, and he can also make it go into overdrive with his ultimate. So it can be a very hands off, just let the turret do the work character with Torbjörn.
And if you're sucking with him, then you suck. Period.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the noob tube, It's like
Torbjörn is for players that don't want to play the game.
Yeah. Well, we all know that he doesn't know how to play Elden Ring, and we all know he doesn't know how to play Path of Exile 2. And by the way, for those who say, well, he's not a gamer. No, he claims to be one. He claims to be an expert gamer, so if he's going to make those kind of claims, guess what? We get to call him on it,
Yeah, exactly. His Elden Ring build was god awful, but the allegations are basically confirmed at this point that because he himself even said that he paid other people to play his games for him.
Well, Tales of Exile, Path of Exile 2, yeah.
And that's pathetic. Why would you fucking lie about that? Why do you need to feel like you're the most?
Because he's
high. You need to feel like you're the best at everything.
He's high on ketamine. For those who don't know, ketamine is a surgical anesthetic, which can give you the sense that you're immortal and you can do anything. And you can tell when he's high on ketamine because he has that stoned look. He has that goofballs look on his face. And he's been high on ketamine during investor meetings. So, unfortunately, it's extremely hard to die from ketamine overdose. You really have to do something drastic to get that. So, It's not like coke. It's not like heroin. It's not like meth. Ketamine is just one of those, like I said, easy to do drugs in which nothing happens to you really, except you spout nonsense. Palworld decided wasn't April fooling at all. It is actually making a visual novel game visual novel dating sim where you can actually dismember and eat some of your the cast. These guys at Palworld just fucked up, aren't they? I mean, the original Palworld, you can enslave them and torture them and work them to death, and now here you can just cut up your pals and eat them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I think they're trying to make it like, oh, you think we're Pokemon? No, would Pokemon ever do this? Do you think Ash would ever do this to Pikachu?
Yeah, no. And they must not really be concerned about anything Nintendo has to say about what they're doing, because for a company that's being sued by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company currently, right now, as we speak, they sure are going business as usual, as if nothing could possibly stop them from keeping.
Here's the thing. Palworld is now a brand. So if Nintendo's going to attack them, they're diversifying. And hey, a visual novel is a good way to do it. What is now the Pokemon Company going to attack the visual novel?
Yeah, I don't know. It's it's bizarre, and they must feel secure enough to pretty much feel like, regardless of how that case goes, they're going to be fine, because like, between things like their presence at Tokyo Game Show 2024, their continuous like movement into crossplay and other platforms, and then stuff like this, they just don't even seem to give a hoot that they're being sued.
Good. That's what a lot of more companies should do, just not give a hoot about Nintendo. Although we're going to give a lot of hoots about Nintendo in the next few days. But Death Stranding crossed 20 million players since launch. I guess that's what happens when you go multi-platform fully.
Yeah, but like, for a single player game to get to 20 million, and this game has been out since 2019, so it's had 6 years. That's a pretty decent long.
Generally, recently it went out to Xbox, so that gave it another platform. So that undoubtedly boosted. I don't know how many sales are on Xbox, but they had to be big, because it was like everybody just wanted Death Stranding, because it was,
and we've also had the announcement of the second one at this point, so people are really stoked to know like what was that first one about if they missed it.
Not officially announced for Xbox, but now that we know that Kojima's company is independent of Sony and they're doing this on their own, there's gonna be an Xbox release. So I just hope they take out the suck. I did not like Death Stranding for the reason that it tried to do too much, when all I really wanted to do was have a challenging game in which you're trying to, deliver boxes without falling down. Because some of the you get to these points in which you want to get there, but you have a choice: either go through this muck or go over the hills. But the hills are really mountainous and terrain, and you only have 2 ropes left. That sort of thing. I do like the social aspect of the game, in which you send messages and you help other players, and other players help you. Non-synchronized gameplay. That's really fun. The entire goop monsters are not fun. It's like, why would you ruin your game with this shit? I don't even mind having those guys who are firing on you. The enemy. Fine, have that as a thing. And you know what? If I can't be armed, that's fine. Whatever. I just don't like the goop monster crap. Not to mention, the story is so weird that you don't need them.
I don't like any part of that game where you have to do combat, because I don't think it's very good, as far as like when you have to do anything that involves.
But here's the thing: when you have people firing at you, you can see them from far away, so you can actually avoid them. So they're more like obstacles than people you have to kill. I mean, you can, but here's the problem with that.
Well, let me get to what I was saying.
I don't even want to fight them, because what they'll do is they'll drop stuff that I want to pick up, but I already have crap on my back, and it's like, oh no, that's going to be too much weight for my guy.
Yeah, but like, as much as I don't like the combat in that game, and I really am turned off by any time you have to like engage an enemy in any way, I will say that I don't mind the BTs, because they represent this kind of challenge where like you're either going to have to figure out how to get around them or go through them.
That's fine. You know, have missions where you have to get around them. You know, but
like that's part of the road tripping of it. That's the aspect of the game that I really enjoy.
BT, and you know where the area is, you can easily avoid it and just get around it and not deal with it at all. If you get into it, it's instant death. Sucks to be you. I would prefer that than having all this. Oh, you're sinking into the goop. That's not fun. It's boring, and I never really quite know what I'm doing wrong. And that's another thing. This game does not give you enough feedback. Mm-hmm. You know, it gives you feedback on when you're with your things, but on that, no. And that's what I don't like. It's just not fun. I don't mind the people who are trying to shoot at you because, you know, that's fine. I mean, that I can understand what's going on. And if I get killed by them, well, that's on me. You know, I never feel like it's the game's fault if I get killed by them. I do feel if it's the game's fault if I die to the BTs. That is just stupid.
Yeah, I mean, like, usually if I get caught by the BTs, I just reload my save because it stresses me out to lose that much equipment.
Yeah, you can kill me, but not my equipment. It'd be nice actually if you got killed by a BT, your equipment stays there undamaged.
Well, that's the other thing is that it takes damage from the attack, and like that sucks too. So like, there's no good. It feels like there's no good reason to stay on a.
I don't even mind
on a file if you get hit pretty hard.
I don't even mind the rain. I mean, if it's raining, get to a shelter. You know, if you have no shelter, well, sucks to your package are going to suffer because you didn't plan it. You know.
Yeah.
Rain's fine. It's just I never know when BTs come and they do their footprints on the ground. I never really know what I'm supposed to do. Hold your breath, okay, you know, but they still seem to find me anyway, no matter what I do. No, so something is I'm not getting the right feedback. Anyway, I will be interested in Death Stranding 2 when it comes out because, like, when a game has faults like Assassin's Creed, sometimes the sequel just looks at those faults and say, "Yeah, we're gonna fix it," and it's fixed, you know. So we'll see. But knowing Kojima, he's just going to lean in on the weirdness. He's just going to lean on the weirdness. And, you know, at some point in Death Stranding, I just gave in to the weirdness.
I mean, we already got a character that's mostly robot, cyborg man, with an electric guitar that he uses as a weapon. So so we're already on.
Oh, you mean Hi-Fi Rush? Well, I can do that over and over and over.
And the Guillermo del Toro puppet that runs at a different frame rate than everything else in the game.
The puppet? I know Guillermo del Toro as a character. Makes me want to slap him in the face every time he opens his mouth.
You haven't seen the puppet? You should go see the puppet.
I never play that long to what's it called to deal with it.
Oh no, it's in the trailers for Death Stranding 2.
Okay, we'll see. But yeah, I have some mild interest in Death Stranding 2 and seeing what it does. Last time when it was on PC, it actually made it to Game Pass, which is how I first played it. So maybe Death Stranding 2 might be on Game Pass for a short period of time. We'll see. So let's talk about the Switch 2. There's a big, strong rumor right now that tomorrow is going to be pre-orders, and that's what Nintendo's big announcement is going to be. Aside from the full reveal of the Switch 2, tomorrow will be the first day of pre-orders.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the rumor comes from someone who's been right about everything, so people are taking it as a fact. So, are you going to pre-order a Switch 2?
Likely. I mean, it's something I need for my job.
Oh, okay. Can't your job get it for you?
Well,
I told my friend, listen, you know, if I can trade you some stuff and I'll give you what I have for your for Switch 2.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. I'm excited for it either way. Like, even if this wasn't my job, I'd still probably try to pre-order one tomorrow. I got a Switch 1 back on launch day when it came out.
Yeah, there are some concerns about the Switch 2, and we're going to talk about it now in game news. If the Switch 2 stumbles, Nintendo doesn't have a plan B. And this comes from Bloomberg. Nintendo's new console, the Switch 2, will go on sale sometime in 2025. It's the first major hardware release in more than 8 years for the company, that has become synonymous with video games. Now think about that for a moment. Nintendo's not released a new device in 8 years. Usually it's, and they're going to talk about this too, usually because when you have a Nintendo, you have the home device and you have the handheld device, like the 3DS. But now they don't have anything to fall back on. The consensus, back when the consensus of industry watchers said that dedicated hardware was dying and Nintendo should switch to mobile. Remember that? Idiots. Idiot. Mobile phones were never going to become game machines. Ever. They were never going to become game machines. Sorry. Because here's the thing. At the time they were making those predilections, it was the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 and the console sales were down. And they thought it was down because people were losing interest in dedicated consoles. No, it was just that both systems kind of sucked, right? And now, when the Switch came out, it just exploded, you know?
Yeah. At this point, it's the second or third best-selling console of all time.
So instead of listening to those guys, they put their eggs all in one basket and made the Switch, which was both a handheld and a mobile device. But here's the thing about Nintendo. Since the SNES, they've swapped good, tanked, good, tanked, good, tanked, right? And it's very interesting to see the sales. And one of the reasons why the Switch was so successful is that the Wii U was bad and it flopped hard. As a matter of fact, Nintendo saw the writing on the wall and they abandoned the Wii U almost as soon as they could to start working on the Switch. Right? All those games that were huge on the Switch were originally going to be Wii U games like Breath of the Wild, which also released on Wii U, by the way. Many people don't know this. The Luigi's Mansion, all these other games that were big on the Switch, they were being developed for the Wii U, and they just said, no, just going to move them all to the Switch. And the problem with the Switch 2 is the problem with the Wii U, and that is, forget gamers, right? Forget the core gamers. What are the more casual gamers going to do? Are they going to buy the Switch 2? Or are they going to say, I already have a Switch, and this doesn't look like it's going to do anything different for me? You know? And the problem is if the Switch 2 doesn't do the numbers that the Switch does, that could be a devastating blow to Nintendo because they don't have anything else. They only have the Switch. They don't have a handheld device, and they don't have anything else but the Switch. And movies. And
I mean, you just solved the issue right there. They have their cinematic department.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, they did. I mean, like, okay, hold up. The Mario Bros. Movie just made like $1 bajillion at the world box office. Like one of the most successful movies of all time.
And here's the thing.
And no, hold on. And they're about to do a Zelda movie.
Oh yeah, with Chris Pratt in it as Link. I can't wait for that.
I mean, they made more than $1 billion on the Mario movie. Why not?
You can't keep going to the same well over and over. Just ask the Marvel movies. Just ask the Guitar Hero and Rock Band.
They're different wells. They're Mario Bros. And Zelda.
Here's the other thing, though. The hardware drives those sales. They don't work much on Pokemon because all they need to do is release a Pokemon game with new plushies to release. But the plushies don't happen on their own. They have to have the game to introduce those plushies. So here's a funny thing about Pokemon that I don't know if you've noticed. The original Pokemon were very angular, very sharp, like Pikachu used that tail and all that stuff. And as it went on, the Pokemon got rounder and rounder and rounder and rounder. Do you know why that is? Because you can make plushies that are more similar to those characters that are rounded. The hardware drives the merchandise.
Maybe so, but I feel like some of those Pokemon were always like the original Pikachu was chunky.
He still had that lightning tail. It was very angular.
Yeah, but he was a fat little mouse when he
yellow
started.
rat, but he still had that tail. You'll notice that all these Pokemon from the early things, majority of them had sharp angles on them, and those are gone now. Those are completely gone. You won't find any new Pokemon with sharp angles because you need the plushie. And those plushies sell. And all the Pokemon merchandise, but without the game itself, can't introduce new ones. You know? And you can't sell Pikachu over and over and over and over again.
Yes, you can. They've been doing it for decades.
Oh, really? So, Pokemon is the biggest selling franchise in the world at $98 billion. Sega and Sonic, they're way low on that list. They almost don't chart because they're unable to add new characters. Anyways, we're gonna move on to the next item. Take it away, teacher.
All right. Okay. Final Fantasy IX anniversary celebration begins, renewing remake rumors. From GameSpot. Square Enix in Japan has launched a website celebrating the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy IX and has special merchandise planned to commemorate the occasion. The anniversary celebration has also renewed rumors of a Final Fantasy IX remake, as it was part of an NVIDIA GeForce leak back in 2021. The leak also contained titles that would eventually be confirmed, including Final Fantasy VII Remake's PC version and Kingdom Hearts 4.
Wait, when did Kingdom Hearts 4 come out?
It hasn't come out. They announced they did a teaser trailer for it maybe a year or two ago now, and we haven't seen too much since. So, assumedly, they're working quietly on it.
I know that.
But it is confirmed.
Paul was kind of down on Kingdom Hearts 3, if I remember correctly.
A lot of
people wasn't as enthusiastic about it.
I hear a lot of folks say that Kingdom Hearts 1 is great, Kingdom Hearts 2 is great, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a travesty.
But, what about Kingdom Hearts 3? What was it, 365-7 or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
They've got handheld Kingdom Hearts.
There's like a million little spin-offs to that series. But in 2023, Jamatsu also reported that a remake of Final Fantasy IX was indeed in the works at Square Enix. Final Fantasy IX was first released for the original PlayStation in July 2000 for Japan and November for North America. One review stated, after the aesthetically revolutionary Final Fantasy VII and the dramatic maturity of Final Fantasy VIII, the complacent Final Fantasy IX may seem like somewhat of a throwback. Boo! Boo to that review, whatever they said. Final Fantasy IX is like the one that made the series fun for me again. And it's probably my favorite.
I mean, this is lighter and softer after 7 and What's-Her-Face got killed, and 8 is dour and depressing.
I feel like Final Fantasy IX is still like a roller coaster of emotions. It's silly at times, but it's also super bittersweet. Super sad.
That's why a lot of people are saying, where's the Final Fantasy IX remake?
Yeah, and I'm excited if this is true, because that is probably my favorite game in the series.
Really?
I like Final Fantasy VII. I couldn't fully get into the remakes just because, I was a little burnt out on those characters by the time the Final Fantasy VII remake came around.
Like Sephiroth?
I can always make time for Final Fantasy IX characters, and it's not like they've been shoved in my face for a long time. So, I'm really excited if that's going to happen. Was Final Fantasy
VIII ever made?
What's up?
Was a remake of Final Fantasy VIII ever made?
They made a remaster of the game that's they really polished up the graphics and smoothed out the models, and it's not a
full remaster like Final Fantasy VII,
but it looks like, I think you could convince people that it's like an Xbox 360 game now.
Okay. Final Star Wars XCOM game on the way. This comes from PC Gamer. Developer BitReactor has been particularly coy about its upcoming Star Wars game, though it was first announced in 2022, and the studio since talked to them about its aims for the game and its ambitious vision for turn-based strategy. It's yet to make any official reveal of the game's premise, talk in specifics about its gameplay, or show any footage or screenshots. It's not easy to keep something under wraps in games for long, especially if it's titled Star Wars. And sure enough, the project seems to have finally sprung a leak. MP First has found a selection of screenshots in the artist's online portfolio, and well, it sure likes Star Wars XCOM. Familiar XCOM like features abound, including the percentage hit indicator, 95% chance to hit, and you miss. An Overwatch mechanic, but though vision cones, so it's more like Gears Tactics, which had the vision cones. Remember? And base management, including an armor, holotable, black market, and special ops. If this is true, it's my shit because I really enjoy the XCOM type games. I found myself adoring Marvel's Midnight Suns, even though I'm a DC fan, and I fantasize about them making a DC version of Marvel's Midnight Suns. And Marvel's Midnight Suns is XCOM-ish. It's not. It's
XCOM with a card factor.
But even then, it's not quite. But anyways, but yeah. Although I will say I did not like Project Phoenix. I know the original guy did it, but he tried to do too much. One of the best things about Sid Meier taking over XCOM was that it was simple. Point the gun at the guy and you shoot him.
Yeah.
But yeah, this sounds like it'll be my shit. How about you?
I mean, I'm all for anything that Bit Reactor wants to do. I like what they do, and yeah, putting an XCOM formula on the Star Wars universe, there's plenty of opportunity there. Like, you already have different classes in that universe that would make for interesting character builds and loadouts and stuff.
Get back into Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's still out there, and I still love my Imperial Agent.
Like, I would love to play an XCOM style game where I get to deploy like lightsabers and like jetpacks and blasters and stuff like that.
Well, you can imagine. What would be nice is if you can play an Imperial faction too. I mean, you have 1 and 2, just like Star Wars. And the thing is that you have characters in Star Wars: The Old Republic who will look at Jedi's and say, "Yeah, you think you're hot shit? Well, guess what? I'm gonna wreck you."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like the concept. I like the graphic art, and it's Bit Reactor. It's not a secret they're going to go the XCOM route on stuff because they do that.
And if I remember correctly, I do believe that Respawn Entertainment is assisting on this because they've been working on everything that is basically Star Wars at EA.
Okay, yeah, all they have on their site right now is a big old fat Star Wars logo, and yes, it does say EA, Respawn, and Lucasfilm.
Yep. So Respawn is at least assisting in some way. Who knows what way, but like either way, I hope it stays like an XCOM style game. It doesn't get ridiculous because you brought it up earlier. Like Phoenix Point is made by the original guy, but it was a little bit too ambitious. It went a little bit too far.
Yeah,
and you don't want to like overcook it. I hope it stays like XCOM style XCOM with Star Wars in it.
They also did. They also worked with Gears of War, Elder Scrolls Online, and Civilization, which I think they probably did the ports for those. And they're also based in New York City. Oh no, they're near New York City. They're in Hunt Valley, so that's cool. Moving on. Let's move on to the next item. Go ahead, TJ. And I know this is actually, you wrote this story, so and I'm pretty sure, since it involves Nier Automata, it's near and dear to your heart.
Yep, I certainly recognized it. Shuhei Yoshida believes Nier Automata, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble saying that tonight, was a turning point in modern Japanese games. From Shack News. Nier Automata, there it is. I just got it right on the third try. Anyways, is a highly regarded game. It's widely considered to be one of the best hits that Yoko Taro and Platinum Games ever produced, and it's hard to argue given the millions of units that the game has sold, the orchestras that have put on concerts with its soundtrack, and its myriad of crossovers into other games.
Yeah, I remember when it first came out, you kept on raving about the soundtrack.
Yep, it's a really, really good one. In fact, former PlayStation Indies boss Shuhei Yoshida says it had an astronomical effect on the Japanese gaming scene. Yoshida believes that the impact of Automata was so heavy that Japanese game design entered a new era afterwards. I think the Japanese game industry was revived after Nier so much that I would say it was before Nier and after Nier. To put it simply, I think Nier Automata was the title that made people realize, let's make something Japanese.
So a little context here. The problem with Japan is that even though it's a real big gaming country, there's not many people in it, right? I mean, the United States outnumbers it by a factor of, I think it's 6 or maybe even more. There's just a crap ton more people in the United States. And what they were worried about for a while was that in order to survive, because video game costs keep on going up and up and up and up, is that they would have to cater to Western audiences, which is why Square Enix bought Eidos, so that they can have the Deus Ex and Thief franchises. And those did not do too well.
Mm-hmm.
But they found out that Western buyers will buy a Japanese themed game or a Japanese, a flavored game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that said, you know what? They're not going to buy us to imitate Western games. We better just make our own games and make them sell. And they have. I mean, Dragon Quest is big here. It's not as big as it is in Japan, but it's still big here, right? And a lot of JRPGs just said, you know what? Let's just do it. And now you have a lot of Western companies that imitate. Well, there's always been companies that did that, but more games that are anime-esque have been coming out, like Sea of Stars and whatever Wayfair Games makes.
Do you know
so
what the
now they're not afraid to make their own games, right? And
do you know what the
Dark Souls just put a nail in that and said, yeah, Dark Souls, people love it here. Just don't worry about it.
Do you know what a perfect franchise that is like a great example of before Nier and after Nier? The Yakuza series. Those games, like when they were first coming out, they were just released in Japan, and
I know a lot of people who had to go to these duty-free places to get imports. And what was the name of that company again? That I think it was not maybe in China or in which in which they sold all of these region-free games there.
Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot. And they closed like a few years ago, and it was like a shock to everybody.
Yeah. So like you had to import those games, or you had to wait. Like it took years after they were out in Japan for them to make English ports, and then finally they got to a point where now they release Like a Dragon and Yakuza games globally on multi-platforms worldwide. And that was like, people forget, but that wasn't a normal thing for Yakuza until a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, now, what's it called? You have all these spin-offs with Ichiban coming out.
Mm-hmm. And some of those were just, there was one that was like a Japanese, like, samurai-themed one. That was a game that was released in Japan that never made it stateside until just recently. That's a great example of, like, that era shift in that decision to start like, hey, these are things that people actually want to play, want to see. Let's go ahead and release them.
And Microsoft, ever wanting to be, have a piece of that pie, always try to, cater to Japanese audiences, and make Japanese specific games. As a matter of fact, people don't know that some of the biggest games ever in Japan were made for the Xbox, like Idolmaster.
Mm-hmm.
And Blue Dragon, and people actually bought Xboxes just to play those games and those games alone. But now Microsoft is very intent. We got to get Yakuza on Game Pass. We got to get Scarlet Nexus. We got to get all these Japanese games onto our system too. So and the upcoming game, Obscura. Oh God, I keep forgetting the name of this game. It's like Obscure Expedition 33. It's a French game, and it is the Frenchiest game. Claire Obscure Expedition 33. It is the Frenchiest game that ever did French. And that's another thing about Ubisoft games. When you play an Ubisoft game, sometimes you can practically smell the baguette coming from it in some of these games, especially if it's Michel Ancel with Beyond Good and Evil, and that's another Frenchy French game.
Yeah.
By the way, Ubisoft's having all sorts of problems. It's not in the news items, but Assassin's Creed, the new Assassin's Creed, isn't doing well enough to help it.
Is that the case? It seems like they've been doing well. Like they're up like 3 million, right?
Not well enough. That's the problem.
It's only been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm gonna check this out right now. Assassin's Creed game sales.
I could have sworn it was 3 million this last week.
Yeah, but remember they're pinning all their hopes at on this one. That's the only game they had.
The one that's got a lot of people's attention is that they split like a good portion of their business off into another company that they also own.
Here's the thing: is that they were not number one. Monster Hunter Wilds was number one.
Yeah, they weren't going to beat Monster Hunter Wilds. Everybody loves Monster Hunter Wilds. That's just the way it is. You shouldn't have really, if you didn't want to go up against Monster Hunter Wilds, you shouldn't have released near that game.
So it's had the second highest day one sales revenue for any Assassin's Creed game, trailing only Valhalla. Although it did sell well on the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously this was like a Hail Mary for Ubisoft, and who knows if it's doing as well as they needed it to, because it seems like they needed to do astronomical at this point.
Yeah, right now, one of the news is that Ubisoft is considering adding another difficulty option in which it's one-hit kill.
I'm sure that would be fun for somebody.
Yeah. The problem is that Assassin's Creed Shadow still has numbers. I want what happened in the first two Assassin's Creed, the first Assassin's Creed. You backstab someone, they die.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine someone getting stabbed through the throat and living.
Well, that's like just the straight up. I never liked the idea of an Assassin's game where you just straight up fight people head on. That makes no sense to me.
No, but I do like the idea of being able to kill someone if you stealth them.
Right.
And that's what an assassin does. And that's the problem, is that a lot of these games. Oh, and the other thing is you have an Assassin's Creed game with a ninja, and one of the characters you can play is just a brick wall that just attacks people. Like, that's not very ninja-like.
Yeah, he's just a warrior.
And it's like, that's not what I play Assassin's Creed for.
I mean, I guess the biggest thing is that they're just trying to give more gameplay styles for people to enjoy, like to reach a wider audience. But
yeah, no, that's the problem. You don't make a game for everybody. You make a game for one type of person. Imagine if you had an Elden Ring, the ability. For those people who want it, we'll give them a magic system in which you can just kill people with one shot. Maybe they'll like it.
Well,
here's the thing: the game for everybody is the game for nobody.
Sure, but like you just don't do it if you don't want to.
Yeah, but it's all in the attitude.
I've already stated my case. I'm not a proponent of the way that Assassin's Creed is. I don't like the idea of upfront combat in Assassin's games.
Well, so, I mean, in Assassin's Creed, when you had that kind of combat, it was a failure, and you're trying to get out of that failure.
Same with Dishonored. Dishonored was
focused on it. It was just like, oh shit. And one of my favorite parts of the first Assassin's Creed, because it was so difficult, was after you did your assassination, you had to book it. And you had all these people chasing you, and it was hard as hell sometimes to lose them. And that was the fun part. You did your assassination, you got the cutscene, and now you're not going to fight these people. You want to book it. You want to get out of there. Because if you have to fight a bunch of people, that's it. You might as well just die because you failed. That was the best part of the first Assassin's Creed, just having to run. And the chases got harder and harder and harder as you went along in the game.
Yeah. Well, it goes, and like Dishonored is a great example of a game that like punishes you for being caught as well. Like you do your best work when nobody sees you. When you're in front of somebody's face and they find you, it's hard to get away from them, and fighting them is a huge pain in the ass.
Especially
you can
go for a pacifist run.
Yeah, and you can fight them, but it's hard. It's difficult.
That's what the blink is there for. Okay, now you see me. I'm over there now.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't. Did I ever finish Dishonored? I don't remember. I know I never finished Dishonored 2, but I don't think I ever finished Dishonored.
It's well worth finishing the first one.
Yeah, notice they got Steven Russell for Dishonored 2 because they said, hey, you think that Thief game sucks? Well, guess what? We're going to give you Garrett here. His name's not Garrett, but he's Garrett. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, so like I said, they found their niche. I mean, not their niche, but they found out you don't have to you make the games that you do best. You can have an audience for it. And that's getting back to what I said about games that give you more than one option. No, I don't want an option. I want a game. I want to be tested on one skill through the entire game, right? That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something else that people talk about. It is when you're making a game, what is your core gameplay loop? What is the thing that's going to make people want to play your game? It has to be one core gameplay loop. For Mass Effect, it's always been the story, right? Because who plays Mass Effect for the combat? You know, who play? It's for the story. I mean, yeah, I know there's the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was great, but that wasn't what the game was about. And when they tried to do it for Mass Effect Andromeda, it didn't work out. Oh, did you see the stories about how Mass Effect 5 was in big trouble?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, there's a lot of pessimism going around. It's sort of like it's not working out.
Well, I mean, like BioWare seems like it's a skeleton crew at this point.
Actually, they released a stealth DLC for Dragon Quest Veilguard. Dragon Age the Veilguard? Did you see that?
That's fine, but it still seems like quite a few people have been leaving or laid off.
A lot of people being laid off lately.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's overcorrection from the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic created a lot of jobs in the video game industry. Now it's going to destroy a lot of jobs in the video game industry because people couldn't leave their house. So what are you going to do? Oh, play some video games. But oh, by the way, the games that I'm still playing that I've already played, I'm still doing a run through of Dragon Age Veilguard. That's how good the story is. It's a story I love, especially, and I always get the golden ending, you know. And I'm not going to spoil what happens in it, but it wraps up the series so well, and it deals with Solus in such a way. It's sort of like it justifies everything, and it also tells you where the elves came from, where the dwarves came from. You know, if this is the final game of the Dragon Age series, it's a perfect ending. I won't mind if there's not another Dragon Age game again, because I got the conclusion to the entire series, which I followed since 2007. Was it 2000? So 2007 was Mass Effect. 2008 was Dragon Age. I got the story told, and it's a wonderful story.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, I hope they get a chance to do more because, like, it doesn't look great. Like, between the layoffs and the things that you're saying here about Mass Effect 5, it does not inspire confidence right now.
No. Like I said, I actually spoke briefly with, oh God, what was his name in BioWare? One of the chief creatives, and I told him an outline for a story, and they seemed to like it, but he couldn't use me, obviously. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, I also wrote an article about where Mass Effect 3 failed. And I sent the story and I gave it to Casey Hudson and I posted it on the website and all that stuff. And everything that I said that was wrong with it, they fixed with all the DLC and the the extended cut. Now, either I was dead on in figuring out what happened and what was supposed to be released, or I inspired them. Either way, I feel like I won there somehow. Like I said in my article, they should have had an ending in which you can say no, in which you have the instead of having those 3 buttons, you can just flip off the catalyst and say, no, I don't need your help. I refuse. Yeah. And guess what they included? A refusal ending. Now, it wasn't the most positive ending, but it was a new ending that actually was not a button that you pressed. But anyways. Yeah. So look for our show notes at gamingpodcast.net, along with industry news and our gaming history articles. We enjoy feedback. Send us comments on our blog at gamingpodcast.net. Also, look us up at facebook.com/gamingpodcast. Subscribe to us on any podcast service or here on YouTube, which you're probably already watching. And we will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Have fun. Be cool. Play games, y'all.
See you later. Bye-bye. And
Bye.
that is